So, Lama, thank you very much for joining us. We haven't met in person yet, but I have now listened to you and spoken to you, seen you virtually several times. I already feel like I know you, and each time I get to talk to you or listen to you, one of the things that come across very strongly is your gentleness. You're very down to earth, simple, but at the same time, extremely composed nature. I actually was quite curious also with your name, Shenpen, which is such a valuable, such a significant name. And here in the Himalayan world, like my own name, they all carry very heavy, deep Buddhist significance. You got Shenpen. I wanted to start by asking you how you got such wonderful, marvelous name.
Well, that's a story in itself. It's one of the stories in keeping the Dalai Lama waking. It was like given to me spontaneously by Tuksay Rinpoche. He said, "What's your name?" And I said it was Sonamsachi, which Karl Rinpoche had given me as a refuge name. And he said, "No, it's not. It's Shenpen Zangmo." And he wrote it on a piece of headed paper. So there you are. That's how I got it. And that was just before I came back to the West. So it seemed very auspicious, really. So when I got back from India to the West, and then I used it from then on. So everybody from then on knew me as Shenpen.
Oh, wonderful. Well, if there's anyone here who doesn't know the Tibetan term, name Shenpen, it means benefiting others. Altruism. So wonderful. Yeah. I want to actually ask you also how your spiritual journey started. I mean, as we talk about Buddha nature, I always ask my guests how they first encountered this topic of Buddha nature and if they remember anything special about it, the kind of impression you would have had when you first heard it.
Yes, an interesting question. I think I first heard it from Karl Rinpoche. I don't know if he used that term. I suppose he did. But he was always using this example of something covered over, and he would always graphically have a piece of cloth or something over something else. And then he'd keep saying, it gets revealed like that. And I, at the time, had become Buddhist because I believed that it was all impermanent and changing and not self. And I couldn't really work out why he kept saying that. So I just made a note of it in my book and drew a picture and hoped one day I would understand. And that went on. I received pointing out the instructions on Mahamudra from Kamatini Rinpoche and Bulka Rinpoche. And all the time I was looking at what was impermanent and letting go, which is, a big job. It took me sort of many years of practice to for something to start to come through. But it wasn't really till I met Khenpo Rinpoche, Khenpo Sutin Gamso Rinpoche in 78, was it? Anyway, and he started teaching the Ratnagotra Vibhaga and talking about this element, and we were busily trying to translate this element. And again, I kept thinking, this doesn't sound like Buddhism, So again, but it did tie in with the problem I was having with, well, if everything's impermanent and changing, why do we pray to the Guru? Because, it didn't seem to make any sense. And then it took me quite a long time, and Rinpoche sent me off to Oxford to write this doctoral thesis on Ratnagotra Vibhaga. And gradually it dawned on me, there is a reality, actually. We're not talking about it's just impermanent and changing and it's just empty. So it took a long time, actually, even though I was doing practices which implied Buddha nature, I wasn't picking up on it, which I find really interesting.